Hey guys, welcome back to another geography episode, and we're going to continue looking at the revision exercises. And what we discussed so far is a final exam paper, and we're busy doing question number 3. Now just to keep in mind again, this is section B and you need to answer one question out of section B, and you're only allowed to do 3 questions. So you can either do question 3 and 4 and either 1 or 2, but only answer 3 questions. Keep that in mind. So let's continue with this question paper. Question number 3. Question 3.1 refers to a settlement. Now let's just quickly have a look at settlement. It's where people live. And if we look at the diagram, the figure that's over here, what do we see? Look at the keys that's being indicated over there. Now our first key is a water source. As you can see over there, I'm just going to use my color pen, a water source over there. Then our second key is the black dots, is a farmstead. It's where people live on their farms. Now immediately there's our first clue. You can see that people live close to the water source over at C. And then we've got a river as the thick black line indicated over there. Probably use it for irrigation. And then there's a road situated over there. Now keep in mind, transport routes are quite important for farmers because they need to send their products out. It might be perishable. They need to be close to transport routes so they can go and sell their product on the market or to the consumers. At D, there's another farmstead clustered together, and that's another clue, definitely nucleated. Now as you can see, if you look, the floodplain is the area just beside the river. What's the floodplain? We're not supposed to build our houses on the floodplain. Simple reason why is because during seasonal rainfall, what happens with the water level? It rises. But what's quite important with the floodplain for farmers as well, the soil is quite fertile. There's a lot of nutrients in the soil close to the floodplain. And then lastly is our farm boundaries that divides our farms up. There's one farm and there's another farm as we continue. And if you look at the contour line situated over there and this section over there. And now let's quickly continue with the questions. The settlement's located close to a source of water because water is scarce. Now, if you have a look over here on your figure, there's a water source. And as you can see, the settlement surrounds it. So that means that area doesn't have a lot of water. So what happens? The people live close to the water, and that is known as a wet point settlement because it's scarce. If you look at settlement A, it's at the river, there's enough adequate water. So the correct answer for 3.1.1 is settlement C. Now farmsteads are dispersed or isolated, which are far from one another. We looked at it when we discussed the theory. You can see there's the one farmstead, there's another one. They're quite far from one another, spread it out, they're isolated. So the correct answer over there will be A. The next question, farmsteads that follow a linear shape. Linear shape means in a straight line type of shape. Let's quickly go and have a look over there. Is number B. Now as you can see, they are situated next to the river as well next to the transport route. So they form in a linear shape. And the correct answer over there is B. If you look at question 3.1.4, farmsteads have a circular shape, and that, let's go back over there. As you can see, look at this farmstead, we see it's in a circle. So the correct answer over there will be C. An isolated settlement most likely associated with subsistence farming. Now let's just quickly have a look at subsistence farming. What's subsistence farming? When you're only farming for yourself to provide your own people and yourself with food. Commercial farming, what's commercial farming is to make a profit. Now if we quickly go and look at question 3.1.5, which isolated settlement is most likely associated with subsistence farming? And the correct answer will be E. Have a look over there, isolated far from one another. You can see there's no farm boundaries, so it's basically subsistence farming taking place over there. So the correct answer is number E. 3.1.6 associated with commercial farms, like I just mentioned with 3.1.5, it's profit driven, to make money, and that's quite easy to identify. That will be A. If you look over here, as you can see, huge pieces of land with the isolated farmsteads, but basically these farms for profit, to make as much money as possible. So the correct answer for 3.1.6 is A. And the last question, second last question, farmsteads associated with intensive commercial farming. If we quickly have a look at that, we quickly go back. Intensive means is also intensive will be number B. As you can see, mostly mechanized, or it can be perishable goods. So the correct answer for 3.1.7 is B. Let's continue with the question paper and have a look at question 3.2. Choose a term from column B that matches the description in column A. Now this looks like economic geography. If you look at question 3.2.1, goods sold within South Africa's borders, that will be number H, is the home market. The extraction of raw materials from nature, that sounds like a primary activity, and that will be number E, the primary sector. That's like farming, fishing, or mining. Linked to innovation, research, and development, and that will be our fourth sector, and that's quaternary. Where is quaternary over there? That's I over there. Exchange of goods and services. What's basically happening over there? We trade with one another, so 3.2.4 will be A. Now 3.2.5, goods sold outside South Africa's borders, and the correct answer will be F. We are exporting our goods. For instance, our farmers in the Western Cape farming, growing grape, processing the grape and wines, and what do? We export it to European countries and making money. 3.2.6, the value of goods and services produced locally, and the correct answer over there is the GDP, gross domestic product, number C. 3.2.7 refers to services such as roads and communication networks. The correct answer over there is infrastructure, is D. And provisional services is tertiary activities, is G. Okay, that's short-based answers. Now if we quickly look at question 3.3, it shows a simple land use model. Now in your notes you will notice that we've got a few different land use models. Now if you just look at this one, for instance, mostly where A is, we find the CBD, and then we find the zone of decay, light industries, and then our suburbs, for instance, are low income, high income, and middle income areas, the rural urban fringe, when we move away from the urban areas, moving the transition zone into our rural areas. But let's quickly go and have a look at the questions. Which urban land use model does figure 3.3 show? And immediately you need to know this was the concentric zone model, or the Burgers model, one of the oldest models that we have. Now if you look at our next question, identify the land use zone at A. If you go back to the diagram, I've already written over there is CBD. And what does the CBD stand for? It's a Central Business District. Our next question, 3.3.3. Discuss two factors that will have influenced the position of A. Now, first of all, if you look at it, if you look at your concentric model, it's your most accessible area. So from your suburbs, from all your areas, it's the easiest way to get to the CBD. So our first reason that we can write over there is the most accessible part of the city. And another reason that we can say it's convenient for service delivery and a third reason that we can add over there, it's functional. To attract services. Describe the location of the rural-urban fringe. Now, if you look at it, like I've mentioned, it's the transition zone from your urban areas to your rural areas. So if you move away from your urban areas, you move to your rural areas. And as you can see, it's situated on your outskirts of your urban areas. So we can just write over there, on the outskirts of urban areas. Or city areas. Now let's continue looking at 3.3.5. Although the inner city area is dilapidated means it's in poor state, the zone of decay. It still has very high property values. Explain why dilapidation does not impact on property values. I mean, for instance, if you go buy a house, if you go and buy your first house, obviously it needs to be in a very neat condition. You don't want to spend any more money. But in this case, the area close to the CBD, even though the houses looks really bad, it looks like no one's been looking after them, they are still very expensive. And the reason for it, and the area of the zone of decay, the dilapidated areas, is this area just surrounding the CBD. Now, if you can remember when we discussed our CBD and the zone of decay, the most expensive land in our urban areas is in the CBD. That's the reason why we have this high skyscraper buildings, because instead of going outwards, expanding outwards, the buildings rather go up, because the land value is so expensive. Now let's quickly have a couple of reasons. Explain why the dilapidation doesn't impact on property value. And the simple reason why is because it's the zone, if CBD expands, So the reason though, if it's a dilapidated building, what will happen? They will just basically destroy it and expand the CBD from there. So the land value is still very expensive. Another reason, the land use is in high demand. People want to be close to the CBD because that's where most of the services are, and that's where you probably get your best marketing of your own business. Now, another reason why is because of the competition to purchase the land. There's a lot of competition to purchase the land. And our final reason that we can add over here is because it attracts other companies. Your sphere of influence will be much bigger if your business is located in the CBD, because it's so much easier and it's accessible for the surrounding businesses around you. So it's more profitable to have your business in the CBD. If we quickly look at question 3.4, refer to the case study in figure 3.4 based on urbanization in South Africa. If we quickly read through it, 2/3 of people in South Africa now live in urban areas. Now that's crazy. We are a population of 50 million, so that means almost 2/3, let's say we are 50 million people, 20 million people already lives in urban areas. Now before I'm going to continue with this case study, let's quickly take a short break and discuss this question in detail afterwards. See you now.